Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you a bit about my Oscar and his daily care and how I have his tank set up. I say he because I named him D'Artagnan, but I have discovered that D'Artagnan is in fact a girl, so I guess I'll call her D'Artagnan. Anyways, she's very friendly. They're like the puppy dog of the sea. If anyone has the ability to get a tank and the equipment to get a creature of this size, I definitely recommend an Oscar. I mean, one, they're beautiful. You can get them in all sorts of colors. I do love the classic fire color. But also do like they're the tiger Oscars, I guess is what they're called. But I also love the albino ones. And hindsight, I kind of wish that I got both an albino and her when they were both babies. So I got her 2 years ago. She was maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches big at most. My spouse brought her home Christmas Eve. And he had actually got me this tank for Christmas. It's a 95-gallon tank. I had already been doing so much research on Oscars, and that's all I wanted. I hadn't really dabbled in the aquarium world, so this is actually the tank that got me into it. As you can see, I have no live plants whatsoever in this tank. I love live plants. I wish I could. It would be so amazing to have a 95-gallon fully planted tank. I think you could do so many cool things with it, but unfortunately, Oscars are not a fan of planted tanks. I guess you would say they are a fan, but they would destroy it. They would uproot all your plants. They would move everything around. I mean, look at the setup. Look at what we're looking at. I love to rearrange this tank as much as I can, but she has a different idea of how she wants the tank arranged. So she has done all of this by herself. All by herself. She has dug herself a little concave down here. It's where she likes to hang out when she's feeling like a scaredy cat. And she's like built up the substrate and kind of created this whole wall of protection for her little space. And she's moved all my fake plants out of the gravel, and she's just done what she wanted with the tank. So as much as I would love to make this tank the centerpiece of everything, she has her own plans. So for setup, 95-gallon tank, I just use tap water. I actually don't even add any prime or anything like that because I'm on a well and I have decently good water with no chlorine in it. So I just have a standard hang on the back filter that is full of your biomedia. So it's got the Biomax pellets and your charcoal and the sponge. And it's just one that you would get at your local pet store for a tank up to 110 gallons, I think it says. It's done me really well. I've had no issues other than the odd clog up. That's just because of like algae buildup or anything like that. So definitely that's when you know it's time to change up your media in there. I have I don't even know what brand this is. Ahem. I just have your giant stick heater. I've never had to replace it over the 2 years. It has kept this tank at the perfect temperature of about 78 degrees. I have a thermometer over here. It's digital. I usually just do like sticker thermometers for my small tanks, but my Oscar is my baby, so I want to make sure that she's sitting at the right temperature. So as you can see, it's in Celsius, but about 26 degrees Celsius. I keep this room a little hot too because it is my reptile room, so I have like some bioactive setups there. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're talking about her. What I feed her. So as you can see, there are some smaller fish swimming around in here. That is a big Oscar no-no, and I know I'm going to get a lot of slaps on the wrist for that, but she is such a gentle giant. She doesn't want to eat them. That's not to say she hasn't eaten the odd feeder fish in the past when I've offered it, but she's so particular on when she eats live fish. So I found that if I fed her, so for example, on a daily basis, I do feed her the Hikari cichlid pellets, the large ones, and I do feed her that on a daily basis. But if I fill her belly with that first, I can add whatever fish I want, and she will never go after them. That is not, if you get an Oscar, Your Oscar will not do that. I know that. She is 1 in a million. So please don't try this at home. Don't go throwing a bunch of tetras into your tank with your Oscar cichlid, because odds are if it can fit in their mouth, they're going to eat it. Anyways, the other tank mates that I have with her are my giant silver dollars. I bought them as babies too, a couple weeks apart from her, so they've grown up together. They've gotten massive. They're much bigger than I actually originally thought they would get. The bigger ones there are the females, and the smaller spotted ones are the boys. They have spawned for me on occasion, but the babies get eaten up pretty quick by the other tank mates. I have a couple giant gouramis at the top. I did have 3 originally that I had purchased, but it did die of old age, because when you get them at that size, you are getting an older fish. So I did accept that. These 2 are doing really well. They're very happy in their tank. They hang out at the top. I have a giant Pleco because, you know, when you buy a giant tank, you can house something like this guy. He's really happy as well. You can see what's hiding behind him is a little clown loach. I have about 3 of these guys in there too. They do come out at feeding time. They're super active. I've actually had one jump out of the tank when I've left a lid open for maybe an hour. So you definitely want a lid if you're going to keep those guys in there, but they do make good tank mates. They're good cleaner-uppers. Just make sure that if you keep your tank super clean or you're just starting off, that you do supplement these guys. So I actually feed them the odd shrimp wafer, as you can see. I'll throw those in a couple times a week, and I will feed algae wafers as well. That's more for my Pleco, but they'll nibble on it too. They don't care. Now let's see if we can find the glorious eclipse catfish that is trying really hard to fit in the hole there. He's a beautiful specimen. I got him, I think, at PetSmart when I knew nothing about fish, but I did think that he was really cool looking, and I liked his name, an eclipse catfish, and he was maybe like 2 inches at the most. He is gimungo now. He's probably almost a foot long, and he is very fat and happy. I've never fed him anything in particular to please his diet. I think he's just he just grabs some of the pellets, and he eats mainly at night. So if I turn the lights off at night, I can come in and see him be the most active of all the creatures in here. The tetras I have in here, I have these. They're kind of bought on a whim. I have these blushing longfin white skirt tetras, I think is what they're called. I think they're just so creepy looking, but they're kind of cool too. So they would be really cool in like a graveyard themed tank with your glass cats, things like that. But they do fine in here. These tetras, I don't even know what they're called, to be honest with you. But they're doing just fine. And as I said, she has no interest. I used to have minnows in here. I fed her. My spouse, he likes to go ice fishing, so he's come home with leftover minnows, and we're like, hey, let's feed her a nice shiner. And I will throw in some cubes of bloodworms every now and then. It does. It lives in here. Unfortunately, the water temperature is way too warm for them, and there's not quite enough current, so they do die off. But I did have one live for like 6 months. Frozen goods for these guys. He was like top dog in this tank. I love them. Eventually, I'm going to be adding Oscar tank and how I have Bashir, but he's just a baby, so he's growing out. I don't want to risk him becoming food, because always a possibility with Oscars. I am taking a risk here with the tetras, but she doesn't seem to care. So